Hi, I'm wishing you a happy new year today. Where I'm at in the US, it is the first day of the new year 2024. For this edition of Simply Stayed, I will be talking about the Christmas holiday film National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which follows the lives of the Griswold family through a highly adventurous and sort of anarchist Christmas. In a year in the US, when during this past holiday, with Christmas and New Year's, there was an unprecedented level of terror threats in the US and, frankly, a huge amount of protests. And even some articles on the US engaging in sending more troops to Europe for war, which ostensibly would be related to Russia and the issues with it. So, yeah, I'm really going to try to tackle all that and put that film in context to what's going on in the world today. And the show simply stated as if that even really mattered very much considering everything. And I'm actually going to look up something right here. So Chevy Chase plays Clark Griswold, the dad in the film. Beverly D'Angelo plays Ellen Griswold, and Randy Quaid is cousin Eddie, the white trash cousin, who has a family that shows up with a trailer. They're literally trailer trash. It's like he dumps his actual sewage into the Griswold family's neighborhood sewage system center, and it ends up actually causing an explosion later in the film. And you also have, you have a whole long cast of characters in the film I'm not going to go into, but those are the three major people who starred in the film that everyone always remembers because they did such a good job of acting in it. And in fact, Cousin Eddie later had a spin-off film, the character did, with Randy Quaid, but it was not as successful. But I'm going to try to talk about what the actual purpose of the films are. National Lampoon's is a series, but specifically that film. For starters, if you watch my series, The Thought Project, Just So You Know, then you would understand that I had some experiences with people, unfortunately, part of the Russian Mafia and part of setting up fake fun groups out in Hollywood. The most famous scene from the film with Mr. Griswold driving his entire family underneath a truck, a large semi, at the same time not managing to get them killed, actually happened to me. I was actually stuck once on the highway in Iowa in the freezing cold of winter at Christmas time under a large semi because the man that I named Wilhelm actually put his car underneath it and drove it underneath the semi. Took everyone a long time to figure out what the heck it was. It was just some kind of weird setup with the Russian Mafia. I only thank God that I got away from these people because they're crazy. When we talk about road rage and problems in the US, which became an issue in the 90s as more and more people from the Russian Mafia set up organizations in the US with the fall of the Soviet Union, nobody, not even once, ever addressed the issue. Oftentimes was actually criminal organizations, usually tied to the Russian Mafia, and almost always tied to them, fighting on the highways in the US, which is very common for them to do in Europe and in Russia. It drives everyone crazy. Maybe today we've finally gotten some kind of control over the road ragers, but I can't tell. I still see more than enough people who are drunk drivers freely driving, and plenty of people who are sober getting in trouble for things that really aren't fair. So, you tell me, but if the drunk drivers are still driving and the sober drivers are getting in trouble for stuff that isn't anywhere near as dangerous or even on the same level, then there might really still be a problem. Just, referring back to that series. And you will have to go back to that whole series to get a full footing and understanding for this one because I'm going to do shorter shows for it. But the point of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation mostly is that Mr. Griswold pretty much ruins a big chunk of the family holiday because of his obsession with getting a bonus from his boss in the company he works for, which, if you look back in context, is probably going to turn out to be some kind of shell company. Everyone there who worked in their jobs was Russian. His boss was Russian. He had a Russian wife. Griswolds are actually supposed to be Russians. The point is that Mr. Griswold has decided in his fantasy life and mind, and whatever images that have been sent to him, that he wants to get a big pool for the family home. That if he gets a big pool for the family home, he will then be able to get a model that works in one of the local stores to hang out at the pool and swim naked in it. That's actually the entire reason he throws a raid attack, ends up with part of the neighborhood blown up, and throws a fit. By the end of the film, everything is resolved. He comes to see these failings and his mistakes. His boss apologizes for not giving him the bonus. And Mr. Griswold goes back to paying attention to the lovely, beautiful wife that he has, played by Beverly D'Angelo. The point of the film is that somebody And I don't know who was definitely aware of the issues with the Russian mafia and their rise in the US in the 80s, or they never would have made it, right? Somehow Chevy Chase managed to get away with making fun of them. Does that mean Chevy Chase is actually Russian? I don't know. But he got away with making those films and nobody's killed him to this date. So, all I can tell you is that when you look back on the film and you wonder why it was so incredibly popular and why it's still popular today, well, first of all, it's a really funny film. The acting's really good. Actually, all the actors in it were really good. Not just the three that people always think of. And it was a well put together plot and story, but it was also, unfortunately, in some ways based off of actual events. And some people even think that it was based off of what I was dealing with. But there's never one reference in the film to either of the children actually not being the Griswolds' actual kids. And I can certainly tell you that none of the people I ever dealt with were anywhere near as charming as Mrs. Griswold. So, that, in its essence, is the point of Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It was essentially a film about a Russian mafia family. The father works at a fake front business. And they never quite go into the even more difficult issues underneath what it actually means. They only really stay on the more superficial issues, which gives you this really funny film and shows you all these sort of horrific, terrifying events and anarchy. On the other hand, it introduced the idea to people and helped them understand something that was going on in society, and it's probably still an issue today at the holidays with those specific groups and fake front groups in the US. And that is this edition of Simply Stated in 2024. Have a good one.